Good day everybody, I'm Sari Exton and I've got Dave Edge with me. We're from Sedgefield Striders. Today we're interviewing Dave to find out his experience and his thoughts during his 20th Comrades, which he ran the past weekend. And we would like to, as a club, congratulate Dave on a very remarkable achievement. Running your 20th Comrades is not a small feat at all. Dave, tell us about your experience. How was it at the start? What went through your mind during the race? And how did it feel to cross that finish line?
Goodness, sorry, that's a big question. But yeah, okay, at the start, there were three of us who'd agreed to get together, all from the garden route. There was Chris Leggett from Eden Athletic. There was Mark van Niekerk, who used to be a Sedgefield Strider, but he now runs for Celtics. Anyway, we met at the start and then all went into the same seeding pen. At Comrades, they have about 8 different seeding pens, depending on your qualifying time, which makes for a nice smooth start to the race. It's quite a relief to get into your pen because it's been a rush to get there. The traffic's been hectic, the parking's impossible, all the streets are closed, and you actually now feel quite relieved, and you look at your watch and there's only like 40 minutes to go. There's a tremendous electric atmosphere. It's like no other race. It's just the sort of the pent-up emotion of everybody, all the people around you. Some of them are novices, some of them have done it 20 odd times. Some of them are, sort of obviously nervous, but it all goes to create that atmosphere. And then as you get closer to the actual starting time, there's a number of traditions that they have. They start playing Chariots of Fire from that wonderful film, and then just before the time to go, they have a recording of a chap called Max Crimborn, who used to, in the days when he ran the Comrades, he used to kind of get the runners going by doing his imitation of a cockerel calling. So he'd go, cock-a-doodle-doo! And then a few seconds after that, the gun goes, and it's a big, loud gun because some of the people are standing back, several hundred meters away. And that's a signal to start your watch. And then nothing happens for quite a while, because the runners are getting going. In fact, it took us about 4.5 minutes to get over the start line, which is not too bad. And then you're on your way. The early part of the race, what's very important, and novices don't realize this, is that you've got to go very slowly for a number of reasons. The one reason is you don't want to fall over, because there's a lot of people who've been now wearing things to keep warm at the start, who are now shedding these black bags and all kinds of other garments, and you can easily trip over that and fall. And I mean, I did see some people this year go down. The other thing to look out for is cat's eyes, along the road. And these, you don't lift your feet very much as a runner.
No.
And that can also take you down. So you have to be very cautious at the start. And then, during the race, there's a whole lot of different emotions. I mean, you've kind of planned what pace you're going to run at, and you need to try and stick to that, to your plan, and not be carried away, because it's easy to get sort of all hyped up, and now you're feeling so fit and strong because you've rested and you've had all this carbo load that you're wired, you want to go, but you've got to hold yourself back. Now, when you get towards the end of the race, you become so exhausted, and I think this applies to the winners as well as the people right at the back, because you've given it your all. You've been going for in the case of the winners, 5.5, 6 hours. In the case of the people at the back of the field, nearly 12 hours. So it's been a long day out there, and you want it to be over. You know, you're actually in a state where you're really ticking away the kilometers, and they're going too slowly. You want them to go quicker, but your body won't make them go quicker. So towards the end of the race, the emotion is all about being very exhausted. You have to keep focused, though. You've got to keep going forward. You see people stepping off the road and sort of losing their focus, their concentration, because the time can go by very quickly and you don't have that much time. So those last sort of 10 to 15 Ks are sort of a battle against exhaustion. Then when you get into Pietermaritzburg, this is the up run, the crowd support is absolutely fantastic. They carry you through. And even then the job is not done, because every kilometre is exceptionally hard. And you're looking at your watch, you're not sure if you're going to make it. Then you get close to the stadium, and they take you off the road, and then you've got a sort of a section of about 1.5 kilometres where you're sort of winding through the park towards the stadium. This is a good feeling. You know, you begin to think for the first time, I'm actually going to finish this blooming thing. In fact, with me, it was about 2 Ks from the end. I said, I'm not walking anymore now. I'm going to run. I may be sore, I may be exhausted, but I'm going to run. So you get eventually right up to the stadium. The crowds get denser, and you can hear this tremendous blooming roar from inside the stadium, because I don't know how many people are in there. It must be tens and tens of thousands. And then you go into the stadium, and the minute you put your feet on that grass is another kind of a bit of a shock, because you've been on tar all day, and some people actually can trip and fall with the shock of going on the grass. So you've got to keep yourself focused. The commentator is going nuts, you know, and saying, "Oh, yeah, come on, not so far to go." But with it being the 20th, and for me it's been a long, long journey. I've been running Comrades basically for 21 years, and 2 years before that building up to be strong enough to do it. So it's been a 23-year journey for me, and I felt that I was coming to the end of a very long journey when I came down that finishing straight, and I realized that I was going to get this double green, and everybody who'd been supporting me, you know, I was paying them back. There was no way that one could fail this time, because as you're probably aware, I did have to bail last year.
Yes.
With 20 Ks to go.
Due to injury?
I just ran out of... Yeah, I was injured and I ran out of time. So those are some of the emotions, but believe me, there's lots more, which we haven't got that long.
Did the weather conditions, the wind and the extreme heat affect you at all?
Yeah, absolutely. It affected all of us. It was okay up till halfway, because you've been in the villages, in the towns. You've gone through Hillcrest, you've gone through Boerters Hill, you know, where you're protected from the wind by the buildings. And now, as you come out of Boerters Hill and you start to go down towards Drummond, you get there was an odd little gust of wind, but we were actually in the sort of sheltered side of the hill. And as you go down, as you know, that part of KZN is very hilly, we were still sheltered. So it didn't feel anything to Drummond, and then we started going up in Changa. And again, because the wind was coming from the north, and Changa was sort of protecting us from the wind, so it was only when we got over the top of Nchanga and started to come down that we realized that this wind was pretty serious. And those few k's down to the bottom of Nchanga, the wind became increasingly a problem. And by the time we got to a place which I call Harrison Flats, you can imagine now you've got this northerly wind coming from the Pietermaritzburg direction, and it's been coming across this flat level ground, and it reaches a pretty ferocious velocity. And the wind is fine, but this was a berg wind, and you know from living here what a berg wind can be like. So it was drying you out. There was a lot of dust in the air as well, and everybody, you could just see them. It was like a flower wilting because it didn't get water. I mean, we were all so strong, but within a few kilometers we were reduced to people who were really now struggling. And as the kilometers ticked by and the heat and the wind didn't get any less, you could see people were taking big strain. People were stepping off the road, getting cramps, and then later on people were starting to vomit, and that eventually affected me. Because this dehydration that you get from that very dry wind, it's very difficult to cope with. You don't know how to deal with it. Later on, there was something even worse began to happen. It was like, I described it as a war zone. Because I saw for the first time in all the years I've been running Comrades, I saw people falling down on the road and not getting up. Wow. From exhaustion, from cramps, just the sheer pleasure of lying down. And you began to think, well, is that how it's going to end for me today? But fortunately, with lots of experience, you know that you will come through this, you will recover, it will get better, because as the afternoon draws on, it does begin to cool down. And you know that the last 15, 10 Ks are going to be a lot cooler and more bearable. So you just got to survive. And that's what it's like. From that 35 Ks out to 15, you're just hanging in and surviving, staying on your feet, trying to take as much water as you can, and just keeping going forward. And even when I started vomiting, I've never vomited in that race before, or any other race. I mean, I know of people who get upset tummies, and I always feel dreadfully sorry for them, but to experience it yourself is quite something. And then you find that now your body won't take some of the things you're offering it. You see perhaps a drink that's got some sugar in it, so you take that and try that, and the body throws it out. You try and eat a potato, the body throws it out. The only thing the body seems to want is water. And your mouth is so dry and everything, you can't get enough of that either. So, it was really a struggle against your body failing.
Coping.
Yeah.
But the preparation you've done before, I mean, would that have been able to prepare you for those extreme conditions? What other preparation did you have to do psychologically for the duration of the race?
Yeah, well, I started training in the middle of December, so I'd had nearly 6 months training, and I'd clocked up about 1,600 kilometers training, and the training had gone well. I mean, I started very unfit. In fact, if you remember, I was just walking when I started, because I still hadn't really got rid of last year's injury. But as I gradually got rid of that injury, I was able to run more and more and eventually do some pretty good races. I think the only thing I lacked in my training, and I actually realized this about a week or two before the race, I thought, I haven't done any heat training. I should do some heat training, because previous years I've always done a bit of heat training building up to the race. Particularly.
Does that mean like running in the middle of the day
yeah,
instead
absolutely.
of early morning?
That's right. It's deliberately running in the heat. And this year, my mind said to me, well, no, don't bother. It's not going to be hot on that day. It's going to be, cool.
What a surprise
So,
when it hit you there.
absolutely. So definitely, one of the many things I'd recommend to comrades runners is that you must do some heat training, particularly in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Is get your body accustomed to running in because you're going to be running all day. You're going to be starting at 5:30 in the morning. You're going to be going right through the heat of the day into the heat of the early afternoon, and your body needs to be able to handle that.
Dave, as a novice, I would like to run the Comrades. What would your advice be to me for preparation if I one day want to run the Comrades, or they call it the ultimate human race? I mean, that sounds like a huge challenge to me. It scares the living daylights out of me.
Yeah.
I feel quite intimidated even sitting on the couch watching. I feel quite intimidated by the 89 kilometers. What would your advice be? What would I do to prepare myself for that?
Nobody is guaranteed that they're going to be able to run the Comrades because you've got to do a lot of training. I think it's something you need to take quite a bit of time to build up to. I mean, from when I first started running until the day I did my first Comrades, I think it was about 2.5 years. So there's a lot of preparation and toughening yourself and being able to run longer and longer races and, keep improving your fitness.
That endurance, I suppose.
Yeah, and a very important thing is to try to avoid injury, because injury is the biggest bugbear of any runner who's trying to achieve a higher standard. So it's patience. You need a lot of patience. You can't rush it. I'd say it's like having a baby, but it actually lasts longer than that. The preparation for this thing. You're going to have to have a program, to work on it, and get your goals, and then it's going to be discipline, because building up to Comrades, the last 6 months, you've got to become very disciplined. You've got to run 6 days a week with your 1 day rest, and it means you've got to get up early every morning. You've got to try and do it so it doesn't affect your family too much. So normally that means doing it quite early in the morning. And you've got to do that day after day after day. And it really is the most difficult thing. It's not actually running the Comrades on the day that is the most difficult for your mind to deal with. It's the training. And that, for a lot of people, is where they're not able to stay the course. Because if you don't do the training, you're preparing yourself for, a very, very difficult day and maybe disappointment and failure. Yeah.
Dave, what's next for you? Is there going to be a 21, or are you going to try for 30?
Yeah.
What's your next Comrades goal?
No, look, sorry. At the moment, I don't have any next Comrades goal. You've got to realise in 3 months' time I'll be 70. So I'm actually at the stage in my running career where it's getting more difficult every year. I can see my deterioration since I turned 60. Every year you get 5% slower, and it takes its toll. This year, in fact, I turned back the clock, because I ran as well this year as I did 3 years ago. And I think that was because of doing the extra training and that sort of thing. And in fact, if you handicap yourself for age, which one can do, this was actually my best Comrades in terms of adjusted for age. Comparative to a 30-year-old runner, my time was just over 7 hours, which was by far the best time I've ever done, adjusted for age. So But next year it's going to be that little bit harder. You know, I had 10 minutes to spare this year. Next year it's going to be, that 10 minutes is going to be gone. So somehow I've got to increase my performance again. So you realize it does get more difficult every year, but that in itself is a challenge. You know, I'm at the moment not thinking about it, but I know there will be temptation because it would be number 21, and I would be 70 years old, and I think it's one of the big anniversaries of the race, if not next year, the year after. So who knows? But my goal now is to do shorter races, to do half marathons, and just enjoy running.
Oh, fantastic!
And, yeah.
Well, congratulations once again. It's a remarkable achievement, and we are so inspired by this. I definitely am planning to run the Comrades one day, and hopefully with your assistance and some training and coaching, you know, I can maybe achieve my own personal goal. Dave, thank you very much, and we're looking forward to to seeing you on a future Comrades, maybe. I know you probably will. So thank you very much for your time and sharing your experience with us today.
You're welcome.
Thanks.